Hi everybody and welcome back to Rebellious Menstruation. This video is on our cloth. This is a Q&A and it's on our cloth pads bulkier than single-use disposables. Now, cloth pads are very much customizable, and this includes the thickness of the pads along with the length and the shape. So they're very much thin, moderate pads that actually in sometimes fact are thinner than disposables. This one here is an example. This one here is so ridiculously thin for a moderate that it was, when I first got at this, I was shocked at about how thin this was. This is another moderate. This is, and just to give you a different, so as you can see how thin these ones are, both of these are moderates. Now that they are from different makers, this one here is from Erin Sweet Sew. She's on Etsy. Just to give you another example of a moderate, this one here is by Daisy and Bird, also on Etsy, but you can see that this one here from the Purple Panda on Etsy is exceptionally thin, even for moderates. So if you're worried about how thin pads can be, you can get them extraordinarily thin. I have never bled through this. If you go to my Instagram, you can actually see pictures of this with blood on it and pictures of after I cleaned it. This is actually after I've cleaned it, so you can see how clean they come. This is a tag from the maker, the Purple Panda. These are, her pads are ridiculously trim, and this is another moderate, and just so thin, that they're the thinnest I've come across. So if you're looking at really thin reusables, because you're concerned about being as thin as disposables, then this is the Purple Panda. I'm not sure. I think she only ships to Australia at this point. However, if you are in Australia, you can get awfully skinny pads. So these are very thin and absorbent, and I've never gone through them. This one here, so this is a heavy, so even heavy, this heavy is actually this is probably one of the bulkiest heavies that I have. This is in comparison with this moderate. I'm not sure how well that's showing up, but this one is definitely thicker. But even in comparison to other, this is a Venus Pads Heavy, this is a Boo Boo Bear. Even when you're looking at heavies, this is probably still the bulkiest one that I have. This is a heavy, and look how thin it is. So these heavies are probably marginally thicker than a bulky heavy disposable pad. But even this one's pretty thin, as you can tell. You know, so yes, they are thicker. Some, like these ones here, again pretty thin, are thicker than a disposable, but are not really thick. I think there's this idea that they're really bulky and heavy. Again, this is my bulkiest pad, and even then it's just really not. I'd like to say that it's a problem, but it's really not. And they are of course thicker than this ridiculously thin one, sure. But this thin one is still a moderate, and this thin one will still carry you through quite a while. And I've worn this one for 4 hours on just a moderate flow day, which is obviously when I would use it, and I've never gone through it. I've worn this one on a heavy flow day for 3 hours, 3.5, 4 hours, and could have probably worn it for another 2. So as you can see, this one would be as thin as a disposable pad, and this one here is still ridiculously skinny here. Essentially, this also contributes to how many cloth pads you need. So this type of kind of thickness. I've never bled through any of these pads, but because I also have enough to last me a full cycle, in the same way that you can get ultra thin pads and just change more often, the same you can get for these. So if you maybe have a heavier flow but do not like the idea of having a pad this thick on, even though in my personal opinion it's not that thick, but I'm also not petite, so I'm not a petite girl, so it's not gonna, this thickness doesn't particularly bother me, but if it bothers you, you can get all of this tiny thickness and just wear them, you know what I mean, and just change more often, so you can get all your cloth pads this thin. The Purple Panda, I just happen to have the Purple Panda ones that are pretty thin. I have put a review up and I do like her products. However, there are other makers. I've heard, I don't have any personally, but I have heard Grace's Fit Emporium does them really, really thin too. But because I have enough to last me a full cycle, over a full cycle, I probably have enough to last me 2 cycles. I can change whenever I feel like, so I don't ever have to worry about leaving this on long enough to actually have to soak through. So on my heavy days, I have changed every 2 to 3 hours. And on an average flow day, I will change a maximum of 3 to 3.5 hours, which means if I don't leave the house when I've got my period, I'll only use cloth pads. I can wear upwards of 40 pads a cycle. So the simple answer is, you know, yes, there are cloth pads as thin, if not thinner than disposables. These Purple Panda ones are a perfect example of that. However, the rest of them, this is from Calabear Creates, this is from Erin Sweet Zoe, this is from Daisy and Bird, this is from Venus Pads, and this is from Go With Your Flow. These makers are all on Etsy, and you can find them all there. However, these are all not that thick either. So if you're really, really dedicated to getting, or are really petite and need really thin pads, just find the makers that make really, really thin pads. I do find that reviews up on YouTube are really, really good at actually showing you the thickness and thinness of certain pads. Now you know that the Purple Panda ones are really, really thin, you may be able to pick them up more. So in conclusion, yes, there are cloth pads as thin as disposables, and you can get them. I haven't seen a heavy one that is as thin as these ones, but what I have seen are moderates that thin. So both of those ones that I have shown you here, this Gator one and this Mickey Mouse one, are both moderates, and so therefore can take a reasonably decent level of flow. And even these overnights here, even this overnight, and these heavies are really not conceptually that thick. They are, however, longer and probably more rounded than cloth pads are. Disposables are. However, they do give you the opportunity to customize your pads to your body shape, length and size. So just keep that in mind when you are going shopping or you're looking at YouTube vids going, oh, that's great, those ones are really, really thin and I really, really want those ones, is to grab a few at the start, and then once you've actually found that they work, grab a few more from that maker. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon or evening. The rest of my contact details are obviously in the description below. I will list the makers that I used in this video, and all of them appear on Etsy if you are interested in them. This is not a sponsored, promoted video. I purchased all of these items in this video myself. None of these makers know that, you know, I don't have any arrangement or ambassadorship for them. I just happen to like them and promote them. Outside of that, bye.